Hello students, this is the second lecture regarding the coagulation and flocculation. In the previous lecture we have seen that the basics about the coagulation and flocculation. Now we are going to see the advance of the coagulation process. Now what are the various factors which affect the process of the coagulation? There are the four types which is mentioned here, that the which affect the coagulation process. That is the first type, that is the type of coagulant, means which type of coagulant you are selecting for the process of coagulation, means how much valence it has for the attraction of the impurities for the colloids. Second, the quantity or dose of coagulant, means how much you are adding the dose of coagulant. Means if you are adding the excessive dose, means then the excess dose will settle down as a precipitate, or if you are adding the very limited dose to of coagulant in the process for the process of coagulation, then such dose will not affect the process of the coagulation. Hence that the factors that it's a very important factor which affect the coagulation process. The characteristics of water, such as the type and quantity of suspended matter, means the type of suspended matter or the impurities which is present in the water, amount of, that is the quantity of suspended matter present in the water, how much the turbidity of water, how much the water is turbid, means it is also very important factor. Temperature of water, means if the water is very hot or water is very cold, it is very nearing to the freezing point or to the boiling point, it is also one of the important factors. Third, the pH of the water, means either water is whether is very acidic or very basic, and then in such condition whether your coagulant is working or not, if then in such condition is suitable for the coagulation or not, or for the coagulant to work in such behavior of the water or of the pH of the water. Then all such parameters are very important for the coagulation process. And similarly, the fourth point, that is the time required for the process of coagulation, for the process of retention. And the turbulence, means how much time you are giving the water to for the mixing of water with the coagulant, and what is the method of mixing you are adopting for the coagulant and the water, means how the turbulence you are creating. Means it's very important that if you are not mixing the coagulant with the water properly, then the characteristics and the properties of the coagulant will not create its effect to the water or to the impurities, and hence your coagulation process will remain ineffective. Therefore its time, its duration, the turbulence and the method of mixing are very important as far as the coagulation process is concerned. So these are the various 4 points is very important for the factors which affects the coagulation process. I am repeating again that the type of coagulant, that which type of coagulant you are choosing. Second, dose or quantity of coagulant. Third, the characteristics of water, that is what is the type and how much the water is turbid, and regarding the quantity of the suspended matter present in the water. Second, that how much the water, what is the temperature of the water, and water is at which level, that is either it is in freezing point or near to the boiling point, or what is its temperature. And secondly, what is the pH of the water, that is either in it is either acidic in nature or either it is basic in nature. And lastly, the time and the mixing and turbulence which is creating for the proper mixing or for creating proper blend for the to create a homogeneous mixture for coagulant and water. So these are the 4 points which affect the process of coagulation. Now we will discuss jar test. That is, a jar test stimulates the coagulation and flocculation process in the batch mode, and it decides the optimum dose of coagulant. That we have discussed that the dose of coagulant is very important, that it affects the process of the coagulation, and hence it's very important test as far as the coagulation process is concerned. And in this test we will come to know about the dose of coagulant, that how much dose of coagulant is required for the coagulation process, depending upon the quantity of water and the characteristic of water, that is its type and quantity of suspended matter present in the water. So this is the structure. So these are the steps in for which the jar test is carried out. So first of all, I will show you the construction or the experimental setup of the jar test. Means it's a jar test assembly in which a series of jars are placed, and in which paddles are inserted into which, and these paddles are governed with the help of motor, and and you can see the differences of water, that quantity of turbid water varies from one jar to the jar number 6. That we will keep the different turbid nature of water, that less turbid nature turbid water, then more turbid, then more turbid, and then more turbid, and more turbid, and then more turbid. So we will keep all such turbid water, and we will operate the paddles behavior with the help of this motor. So now we will see how this jar test will operate. First of all, fill the jars with raw water sample, either 500 ml or 1000 ml, usually 6 jars. Okay, we have seen just now. This time adjust, that is pH of all jars at optimum at 7. Means we have to adjust the pH of all the water or the fluid present in the jar, generally at the 7. Means we have to keep that at 7 pH while mixing using, that is either H2SO4 or NaOH, means either taking strong base or strong acid. Okay, at different doses of the selected coagulant, either now we have to select different types of doses, either maybe doses of different selected coagulant, either hair, alum or iron to each jar. Okay, now the coagulant dose may vary from 0 to 50 mg per liter at an interval of 10 mg per liter. Means we will add the dose rightly from 10 mg per liter, then we will see its behavior, then we will add at an interval of 10, means that we will add 20 mg per liter, then we will add 30 mg per liter, then we will add 40, then we will add 50. Then after adding each interval of 10 mg per liter, we will monitor and we will analyze the behavior of the fluid, and we will come to know that how the behavior behaves and how the fluid or water will act. Okay, now next point is, after adding the coagulant dose of 10 mg per liter at each interval, rapid mixing of each jar takes place at 100 to 150 rpm for 1 minute. Initially we will mix the jar at rapid mixing at a speed of 100 to 150 rpm. Okay, now the rapid mixing helps to disperse the coagulant throughout each container. Means this is the rapid container rapid mixing, in which the mixing takes place with the help of paddle, which is inserted in the jar at a speed of 100 to 150 rpm rotation per minute for 1 minute, so that the coagulant and water can disperse and create a turbulence with each other and make a homogeneous mix with each other. And after that we will reduce the stirring speed at a 25 to 30 rpm for 25 to 30 minutes. Okay. Now initially we have started at the speed of 100 to 150 for only just for 1 minute, and later on we will reduce the stirring speed at 25 to 30 rpm, and we will keep the speed for 25 to 30 minutes. Now why this is takes place? Because it's a very important point, because at initially we will have to mix with, initially at 100 to 150 we will have to mix the coagulant with the water. Okay, once the coagulant mixed with the water, now the coagulation process is achieved. Now it's the time for flocculation, that the flock will have to form, and gentle mixing should be given to it, so that the impurities and coagulant forms a flock or the agglomeration with each other, so that the gentle mixing, that is, so that we have to reduce the stirring speed up to 25 to 30 rpm for 25 to 30 minutes. So that's why we have reduced the speed of paddles from 100 to 25 rpm. Then after 30 minutes we will stop the mixing of the paddle, and we will keep it, let it for some time, so that the collected flock will settle down at the bottom of the jar. You can see the mixing will take place with the help of paddle. Initially the solution takes place, say H2SO4 or NaOH. Okay, you generally keep at the pH kept at a 7. Okay, now the coagulant added at an interval of 10. Initially we have added 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So now so 10, 20, 30. So after adding this all such interval, we will see the behavior of the coagulant, and after this we will chalk out the relationship between each other. So initially we have given the fast speed, that is the stirring speed, at a speed of 100 rpm, so for 1 minute, and later on we have given the gentle mixing, that is we have reduced the speed of 25 to 30 rpm for 25 minutes, and we will see the behavior. Now turn off the mixers and allow the flock to settle for 30 to 45 minutes. Then measure the final residual turbidity in each jar. ठीक है, now हम उसके बाद क्या करेंगे? Then measure the final residual turbidity in each jar. Then again we have to plot the residual turbidity against coagulant dose, and after plotting that dose we will come to know the coagulant dose with the lowest residual turbidity with the optimum coagulant dose. Now so this is the relationship that is between the pH and the turbidity present in the water, and we have added in the coagulant dose to it, and we have gained such relationship between with each other. At what pH we have gained the relationship, and optimum pH we have find out that at which turbidity, at which dose we will we have come to conclusion that at what dose we will get the come to know that amount of requirement of dose given to the water. Now this is the optimum coagulant dose. When after the mixers are turned off and it will settle down for 30 to 45 minutes, the final residual turbidity in each jar we will have to measure, and we have to plot the residual turbidity against the coagulant dose. The coagulant dose with lowest residual turbidity will be the optimum dose. Means we have given the LM dose in the form of either in the form of interval of 10, 10, 10. So we have plotted a chart, graph, and the maximum remaining turbidity which is remain in the jar, and after applying the dose of the coagulant, we come to know that this this parameter or this nature of graph is formed, and at lowest point of turbidity at which dose of coagulant, we come to know that this is the optimum dose of coagulant. This is achieved by the coagulant jar test of the coagulant dose. So this is the method and this is the methodology which is generally adopted for the optimum dose of coagulant and for deciding the coagulant dose. So this is the actual performance of the jar test behavior. Okay, so you may I think you may have to conclusion that how the dose of coagulant is decided and at what pH of it is decided. Okay, so again, the coagulant dose with the lowest residual turbidity will be the optimum coagulant dose. Okay, this is the graphical sketch of the jar test. Okay, that is water containers, this is the stand, and this is the pedals. Okay, this is the motor, RPM gauge, and now which are the coagulants generally used? Mainly aluminium and iron salts, aluminium sulfate, chlorinated copper as, ferrous sulfate and lime, magnesium carbonate and lime, and sodium aluminate. Copper salts and are generally cheaper, but iron salts are more effective over wide pH range. So this is the this is all about the optimum dose of coagulant and the importance of the jar test and the factors affecting related to the coagulation process. Hope you have understood the concept related to this, and I think I have covered a wide section of the coagulation. If you have any doubt related to this, you may raise a question in the comment section. Thank you.